how do you want to be involved with us? Because we have a strategy to come back to the community and hold some community-specific workshops. Would you like to be involved in that? Or would you like to be informed? That's what we want to hear by the end of the night. We have some stations set up that we'll ask you to just speak with our project team members to let us know that level of interaction that you want to have through this planning process. So one thing that I mentioned is that this meeting tonight is being hosted by the St. Vrain Creek Coalition. And that coalition is the different government agencies and communities that you see their logos here on this presentation. They came together to get this master plan started. It was funded by a grant from the Colorado Water Conservation Board with local matches from each of your communities and local government agencies. And they realized that in order to look at the St. Vrain from all the way the Continental Divide to the South Platte, it's going to be a regional effort because what happens upstream affects those downstream all the way through this watershed. To talk more on that is Julie McKay from Boulder County, and then we'll have Reed Farr from the town of Lyons speak as well.
And for those of you who are familiar with this effort, shortly after the floods last fall, the county began asking this kind of question about, how are we going to restore our creeks? And how are we going to do that that works along with public road and bridge reconstruction, as well as private crossing reconstruction, and all the other kind of rebuilding and rehabilitation needs. And so from that question of how all these things need to happen and need to happen together, the county started devoting significant resources to this effort. And one of the outcrops of our effort is the reason that we're here today, is to embark on the watershed level master planning for the St. Vrain. Up until this point, I know a lot of you, certainly the county and all the other agencies in the coalition, we've really been focused on spring runoff and watching the rising water levels, recognizing new flow coming in this spring, and also changed or diminished ability of the creeks to handle that flow. So a lot of the county's efforts have been focused there and attention up until this point. So when we got the coalition together, one of our goals was to say, okay, we certainly want to support the effort to be equipped for that spring runoff circumstance, and we know things don't stop then. So we want to have a next step after spring runoff to continue the rebuilding process, our stream restoration process, and everything that's going to facilitate our long-term recovery. So that's really what brings us here today as the next step. For me, I'm really excited because, as this graphic demonstrates, we have to do this together. There's no one agency, community, individual, user of the creek can make all the decisions around creek realignment, restoration that need to happen by themselves. So we're really hoping that tonight really marks sort of the transfer of this process from the agencies have been putting the structure in place to then all of you and all of us who can go forward constructively. So with that, I just want to say welcome, and then Reed, I understand you're going to be saying a few words on behalf of the town of Lyons as our host tonight.
Reed Farr. I'm a resident of Lyons, and I'm a volunteer, and I was asked to join the Lyons St. Vrain Recovery Task Force, which is a commission similar to the Parks and Rec Commission here in town, or the Sustainable Futures Commission, or the Ecology Board. So that commission started to get formed back in December of 2013. And the objective was to take a lot of the public input that we had already received through some of the meetings that we had at LifeBridge Church, and then some of the follow-up meetings that I know a lot of you were in concerning stream restoration and some of those recovery working groups. In addition to the parallel objectives with those, which a lot of these echo a lot of the objectives and theories that we talked about at the LifeBridge Church and in a lot of those recovery working groups sponsored by FEMA. We've also been working on this watershed master plan. There was an initial plan to have a master plan just for the town of Lyons, similar to what Jamestown did. But as we were looking through that idea, it seemed to make more sense, first of all, financially, to team up with some of the other coalition members, and really more importantly from the watershed itself, is to look at it holistically. Because the things that we are doing here might affect somebody downstream, or if we weren't, more importantly, I think, aware of what was happening upstream, then it would affect what we're doing here. So the idea was to look at this from a holistic perspective. We'll talk a little bit more about what's called these PDGs, and those are the project, sorry, I've got a little bit of a loss for a second, but the project description development guidelines, thank you. Sorry, I've said it so many times just using the acronym. The PDGs are what, of course, we've all worked on and from various different groups, but the Recovery Working Group is what we'll really be looking at here. And those are the types of things that we've talked about. The priority ones that the Lions Recovery Action Plan, or the LRAP plan, which will be rolled out here, I think, in the next 2 or 3 weeks, are really going to be focusing on McConnell Ponds. It'll be focusing on the riparian habitat restoration. We're focusing on how the river is going to be channeled and what that channelization is going to look like. What kind of flood mitigation can take place upstream on the South St. Vrain. One of the PDGs talks about the andesite mine site and what we might be able to do with that with regard to some detention and retention, some energy dissipation as the South St. Vrain comes through Boulder County open space property. Some ideas about Apple Valley and how to best mitigate and do some energy dissipation through there. So as we go through this presentation, I want to make sure that everybody understands that we have heard the community, we have taken the working recovery group, the recovery working group information, and we will then integrate the science that comes from this master plan and be able to then start to execute these PDGs based on the priorities both from the Lions Recovery Action Plan as well as what works scientifically with the results of this master planning process. Thanks, and Andrea, I'll let this back.